Welcome everybody to another edition of Getting Real with Paul and Howard. And in this episode, we always have a special guest, a real estate expert who loves the community, knows the community. And we've got Leslie Iacolucci. You know the community, love the community, just like I talked about. And specifically, you service, everywhere from Skagit County. You also go into Island County, but you really do know the community. But just first of all, tell us a little bit about, where you serve real estate and, did you grow up in the area? Are you from out of here? Give a little background about yourself.
Well, first of all, I grew up sort of around Bay Bridge Island area, around Kingston and Indianola. So I always say, I'm local because it's on the peninsula, and, we would go to Port Angeles and Sequim, and Anacortes is kind of unique in the fact that we can get to Sequim and those places pretty easily just by traveling over the bridge to Deception Pass and going and taking the Coopville Ferry. So I feel like I really know, the community and the areas and the Puget Sound in general. So that's really fun. But yeah, I moved here 7 years ago when my husband, he's the golf pro over at the Swinomish Golf Links. And I love golf, and this has just been a great community. We get lots of retirees moving here. People are moving. I get people all the time from Seattle who, are just want to get out of the fray and have a little bit more chill lifestyle. I feel like we kind of have the island lifestyle here with the hiking, biking, boating. It's just so fun.
We kind of have the best of all worlds in Anacortes, specifically like you're talking about, because you don't have to take a ferry. Right, it's the gateway to the other islands, but you don't have to take a ferry, which is awesome. And so right there, you've got both Deception Pass over to Whidbey, but you can just stay on Anacortes, but you can also just hop on, and get onto the San Juans if you wanted to as well. But but you also service just Skagit County, which is a little bit, obviously Anacortes is in Skagit County, or really right at the crossroads between Island and Skagit and San Juan counties. But, Skagit County, just along the I-5 corridor, all the way up from Stanwood and Camano, and of course, Burlington and Mount Vernon. But you service that community as well. So tell us a little bit about that community and what's been happening in the markets there.
You're right. It's so easy from Anacortes, since we're not ferry bound, to be able to just drive over to the I-5 corridor where there's a Costco, shopping. There's, so many different communities over there, from Cedro Woolley and up to Bellingham along Chuckanut. Such a great farming community, as well as we have all the services too. So but what we've been seeing in the Skagit County is that we still have a shortage of inventory, of course, and we're still seeing it in the lower price points. There's a severe shortage, and that means that it's competitive in those price points. From 500 to 750,000, we've had 68 new listings in June, and 62 went pending. So it shows that there's a shortage in that price point as well. And from 750 to 1 million, we have exactly 23 new listings and 23 pending. So that is a shortage as well. It's more considered low inventory, but when you get over 1 million, then that's a great place to be for buyers right now. There's definitely more selection, and the market's a little bit slower right there. So people are, taking their time and really finding something that they like.
The stats are interesting because on the one hand, when people ask us, how's the market? You always want, what always depends, right? Are you a buyer or are you a seller? But also there's the home sales, like how many homes are actually selling versus home prices. And you never know what somebody's really asking when they ask that question, or the way they're going to interpret it. And I think it's worth discussing a little bit here on the podcast that right now, and Howard, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was just looking at the last 10 years, but I think that it's longer than that year to date, when adjusted for population, essentially, in Western Washington in general, we're at the lowest sales pace in recent history, as far as less people are moving in general than really, a very, very long time. I know at least 10 years. Home sales are down 15, 20% in Washington State just from last year. And then another 15, 20% from the year before, maybe more than that. Yet, we know that home values have maintained and the supply and demand for the people that are moving, the listings versus sales. To Leslie's point, that's really remarkable when you're basically talking about a 1 month supply in Skagit County, in those medium to even higher end price range up to $1 million. Home values have stayed up. And in fact, in Skagit County, I think they're up about 5% year to date, but home sales overall are way down. So people just aren't moving to the same amount.
I think we always have to remember, the statistics can be somewhat misleading to consumers in general. There's certain assumptions that are made when there's fewer home sales, right? Which is, the demand must have been, decreasing. Well, yeah, demand is decreasing because there's not enough inventory, because enough home builders aren't basically building the homes. And people who have moved already, they're pretty happy because we're coming off a record sales, right, from the past, the previous 3-4 years. And so when people move, it's not like they immediately want to move again. Plus, they're sitting on those amazing low interest rates. But there is what's called the pent-up demand. Lennox talks about this all the time, which is there are simply people waiting in the wings for properties to come on the market, interest rates to drop, right? So there's certain conditions, but the desire to move, right, is absolutely there, which is why you are still seeing, of the homes that do come on the market, they're basically being absorbed really fast. And what a lot of statistics don't share are the percentage of homes selling in the first 30 days. That is a statistic that we share every single week at John L. Scott, which is, we got to actually see what is that fast demand that, within the first 30 days, actually a lot of times within the first week, how many of those new listings coming on the market go pending, and it's still at a really, really fast pace. So we definitely know under $1 million, absolutely, the demand is still there, buyers are still there.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at our median house price range in Anacortes here too, I mean, that's up 9% year over year. So it's not getting any better. I kind of feel like there's a little bit of buyers are able to take this opportunity why the interest rates are still a little bit higher. As soon as they go lower, it's just going to get crazy again.
With the metrics, it's like you got month supply and you have interest rates. And so, if we have a 1 to 2 month supply under $1 million in Anacortes and throughout Skagit County, then the sign is actually pointing at upward pressure on pricing. If somebody's trying to forecast, is it going to be more expensive to buy in the future or the prices come down? The only other factor that usually is in play, of course, there could be major national and local economic factors, but Skagit and Anacortes, to me, of course, the job market matters, but it's not the same as Seattle, right? So because with remote work now and with people commuting up to Skagit County or retiring into Anacortes, the market is not, I think, as job dependent, I would say. Of course, it always is a little bit. It's more just like the best indicators right now are month supply and interest rates. Month supply is still 1 to 3 months, which is upward pressure on pricing. So would you guys both agree that basically if rates go up, then, perhaps sales will continue to be slow and perhaps home values would, could dip a little bit, especially on the upper end. But if rates go down, then especially 0.5%, 0.75% later this year into next year, especially under $1 million, there's nowhere for them to go but up because of that demand. And it's like we're realtors and we're always talking about, prices going up. And I know that's just sounds like cliche realtor talk, but statistically, it just seems like the only way that we can see things going. I mean, do you guys have anything to add or?
I don't think so. I was listening to the city of Anacortes, their meetings, and they always have they were talking about how many new building permits they had in the past year. And for single family residents, they had 1 new building permit for that. So that was really low is what they said. I mean, perhaps there's more coming. I know we've had some, cottage developments and things like that are a little bit higher density. But as far as single family residences, there's only had 1 in the past year. So yeah, the new building starts are very, very low.
And so it really is kind of that mentality that people have got to rethink. Oh, well, if I am thinking about making a move because I've got a life need or a life circumstance, they should go ahead and do it, especially if they own a home, because they're going to be able to sell and buy within that same market time period. So they're going to be just fine. And the other thing too that we have to remember is so many of the homeowners have so much equity. As long as they bought the house like, 2, 3, or, more years or longer, lots of equity has been built up. We're still seeing those great appreciation gains. And of course, we always have to make sure, we're talking about the hyper local market. We're talking about Skagit County specifically, and even within Skagit market, which city, what price category versus on the national level, you might see different news all over the place. So it's so important to talk to, of course, a local expert who understands those statistics, buyer demands, and some of those things.
Even though, there's a little bit of an inventory shortage, they want to take their time to really find something. And there's no rush because they probably own another home somewhere. And they might be saving that home to keep as a rental and be thinking about, okay, I'm going to retire in the next 2 to 5 years and I want to be in Anacortes. So I'm going to really take my time to find something that's perfect for me. and that's fun. A lot of times we'll work with people 2 or 3 years to find the perfect place. I also heard that there's people who might purchase now because now is a good opportunity, and then they can rent it out for the next couple of years and then save it, to kind of have that price lock in for retirement. So that's an interesting proposition too.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is going to be an ongoing trend is this whole, we already been talking about ADUs a lot, but Anacortes is pretty ADU friendly. They're absolutely running along with, the changes, with the state of Washington in terms of the law. And so the homes that don't have any covenants that, that prevents ADUs from being built, consumers could consider, I could buy a house, maybe add an ADU, increase the value to the home, get some supplemental, of course, income, through the rents, or eventually, of course, or they maybe got extended family, or they can even move into the ADU, which maybe is a one level, and then eventually rent out the other. You can also create condos. There's just different housing, I think, opportunities moving into the future that people have not thought of. So nowadays, you not only need to have, a good realtor, who knows the properties, but what can you do to the property, right? Moving into the future, do you have a contractor who might also be able to add the ADU, whether it's a detached or attached, converted garage. So it is a very interesting time to consider, the different housing scenarios that might come up for somebody as they're looking.
Yeah, the city of Anacortes is very pro ADU. I know that they would like to expand those permits for sure. And, interesting enough, right across the street from me, a neighbor, small house, and they've got like 3 kids now, and they decided, since it had alley access, they got their permit with the city, and they just dug the big hole. And I'm so curious to see this new ADU go up. It's going to be amazing. So they need it for just their family to come visit, since their house and the number of people are expanding, and they need that ADU. So it'll be fun.
Well, you said it. What was it? 750 to $1 million. It was 23 pending, 23 available, 23 pending. And that's been kind of the trend line in Anacortes for some time. And Leslie, you made a great point, and you're the right person for this, because we're talking about, you have to be ready to go right now, but then also be prepared for the long game of waiting, because there is going to be lower sales, lower inventory for the foreseeable future. And you're a great broker because of your patience, and you certainly don't make anybody feel pressured or anything like that. And you have such a great disposition on how you work with your clients. And so we love partnering with you, and we appreciate you coming.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Paul. Thank you. And thank you, Howard, too.
Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate you watching the podcast. If you want to get to know more about the community, golf, real estate, opportunities, ADUs, give Leslie or the team at Donald Scott Anacortes a call. They serve the entire community, not including Skagit, including Whatcom and Island, and of course San Juan counties. We got an amazing group right there on the waterfront in Anacortes. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll talk to you again next time.